Play that funky music. Woo! Let's
Hello,
go,
hello.
baby. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Good to see you again.
Same here. Happy Friday.
Love. What's that?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Yeah. So you guys got any Christmas parties coming up for the office?
We had a big one. It got canceled because of COVID.
Oh, because of COVID. I know it's starting
Yeah.
to hit again. It's even affecting the NFL.
Uh, yeah.
Almost cost us a game last night. Oh, can't say Chiefs game without our guy.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I think it was supposed to be on December 14th. So this week we would have had it.
Oh, well, we've
Oh,
got
well.
ours tonight, so pray for me that we get through ours okay.
Oh, have fun.
Yeah. All right, guys, we got to jump into it, man. We got a lot of stuff. There's just so much stuff in this class. I love challenges, taking on all of this material in 3 days. So hopefully you're getting something out of it though, right? I
Yes.
mean, it's very power packed, but I also want you to get stuff that you can apply in your business and like just know, oh, I need to see that again. And a lot of this stuff we go into detail in Ignite as well. So does anybody have anything particular they saw, look through the book between the listing consultation, offers, negotiations, the post closing, anything particular that you want to make sure we cover because we're going to be flying pretty fast? Anything coming up in your business with any of those items or what we covered? No? All right. Well, then we are going to jump right into this because I want to get through as much of this material as I can. There's a couple of chapters in here that are pretty meaty, and then I at least want to try and highlight as much of the other ones as I can. Now, here's what I would say. Go through, if you didn't pull up the manual, if you didn't go pull this manual up, definitely pull it up because at the end of each chapter, there's like 8 chapters or something like that. There's stuff to do. And I'll give you those pages. Hopefully we get to that and give you those pages right at the end, but it's right at the end of each chapter. There's some things that you want to just take that page, go to it, see what you remember from our sessions over the last 3 days and complete the tasks that they give you. All right, but we're going to go ahead and jump into this right away because I want to get through this stuff. There's a lot of stuff on the listing consultation that I want to make sure we cover. And that, again, that's just that we're going around the pie here and going through this stuff. Feel free to jump in and stop me wherever. Just unmute, raise your hand, wave in the background, do whatever you have to do to grab my attention, because once I get going, I'll just be flying. But I will take a breath eventually. And hopefully you guys like this teaching style too. So I think I've got, trying to see if I got everybody. Oh, there we go. Get you on a different box here so I can see everybody. All right, cool. So anyway, preparing yourself. Oh, these are just the 5 strategies for the consultation, knowing your scripts, understanding the market, the communication techniques, be a consultant, not an agent. That's probably what I'll hit on the most because I do mine as a consultation more than I do presenting and selling. Now, when I started, I presented and sold. I had the PowerPoint and I would just go through the slides and tell all these things that I would do. And when I started recording my listing presentation, listening back to it, it's like, I don't even know if they remember most of this stuff, right? So it's important to just ask good questions and find out what's important to them. And biggest thing I learned was just sell 1, 2, or 3 things out of everything that you have that matches what their needs are and what they're doing, because the whole point to win them over is that you're listening to them and you care about them, not just everything that you're going to do. And your competition can just beat you up on that too, because they can all say they can do that stuff too. It just might not be as good. So as you go through this book, there's a lot of stuff in here for you guys to work on and build, like build an appointment toolkit. I actually just have my listing system that I know when I walk out the door, I've got a lockbox, a sign, and my camera, and I'm going with the paper, with the folder, with the whole full listing agreement in it, because I'm planning on listing the property if I go. So on the consultation, on the big picture, what constitutes a successful consultation? You're going to get the signed listing agreement, have confident sellers, and agree to the next steps. And when they say confident sellers, they know what they've signed and they know what they've agreed to. So the very first thing I do just on mastering your consultation is confirming the appointment. I will tell you, if you want to write this down, I give them an easy opportunity to cancel. And that may sound silly, but what it does is I make it so easy for them to cancel the appointment, because if I'm going to go there and they're busy and they're caught up at work and their day's getting out of control and they're racing home, they're already not going to be in the mode to really listen to me. Otherwise, they would say, we have to sell and we have to meet with you. That'd be a different story. But for most of the people that you're meeting, this probably isn't their most important thing of the day. And they're really just agreeing to a time to maybe fit it in. And most people don't live by an actual calendar. So a lot of times you'll get to the appointment and they're not home, or one of the spouses isn't there. So when I call to confirm the appointment, I'll either do it the night before or the morning of, and just say, hey, I know life's crazy out there. Is everything still good for tonight? Are you both going to be there? And they'll say either the day's crazy or something. And then I mean, if it sounds insane on their world, I'll be like, are you sure tonight's good? I mean, this is what I do full time. If we need to reschedule, we can, because there's no reason for me to cram it in and then have them distracted and not listen. I'm going there to get the listing. So again, I don't want to delay it too long, because then they're talking to other realtors. So you got to use your best judgment there, but almost make it to where it's too easy. And then they usually say something like, no, today's good, we're ready. Now they're like, they just change their mindset where they're going to listen. Always act as if you're getting the listing. Entering and touring the house, I mean, they talk about this in bold too. You show up at the door early. I'll just tell you, the only thing I say when I walk in is kind of jokingly say, all right, well, you want to take me on the grand tour real quick? That's one of the first things I say right after I get there. Let's go ahead and take a grand tour. And they usually laugh like, grand tour, right? Just our little humble house. So that kind of breaks the ice a little bit. And then we just do a quick walkthrough and they just show me around. So I'm making mental notes of things, anything I see. I mean, again, there's training where you want to be careful about going, ooh, this is nice. Ooh, that's beautiful, because then they're thinking their house is worth more. But I usually do point out, double vanity in the sink. Hey, that's a nice little extra. And it's like, oh yeah, we love it. It's like blah, blah, blah. So just use your best judgment there. I don't know if there's any right or wrong. Again, I'm usually coming to listing appointments where they've been referred to me so hard and they picked up the phone and called me, that it makes this part a little bit easier. So when you're with strangers, that's why I'm saying this stuff about not pointing out things like that, because you don't know them yet. You don't know what their overall impression is or how much they think their house is worth and all that other stuff. So that's the other challenge, though, is when you're calling people that you don't have a relationship with, you're going to have to build that trust and be the person that they'll listen to in a very short period of time. So you can sit there and even just take notes and make notes of things. Like last night, the listing appointment I went to, they have a lot of stuff. And, it looks cute and nice, but it's too much stuff. And they're going to have to pack all that up, because already they're in one of the smaller floor plans of the floor plan that I was in. And the rooms look small because they have so much, they have every ounce of carpeting has something on it around the room. So we had that conversation last night. And again, they're kids of a past client, so they have to listen to me because their mom was there too, sitting at the table. So whether they liked it or not, but they got it. I mean, they're listening to what I'm telling them. And then just beginning the conversation, again, that's where, if you have your selling proposition, if you have your selling points, your unique value proposition, all that stuff down, that's where you're going to start the conversation. Actually, it's a consultation, and it does start with them. I'll tell you, on beginning the conversation, what I start with is discounting the MLS. I start shooting the MLS out of the water. So when we first sit down, say, well, let's sit down and we'll go over the numbers. And then I usually say, now, just so that you understand how real estate really works, the MLS system, for example, and that's how I start the conversation. The MLS system is a system that all the real estate agents use. We put the properties in there. Every property looks exactly the same in the MLS, right? But in the MLS, it's a searchable database of everything that comes on the market. And we fill in every single field on that MLS. We fill in all the pictures. We talked about that the other day. So I don't want to take up any time on that. But I talk about that and how other people don't do that. And by filling in all that stuff, you go up higher in the searches on all the other websites that MLS gets fed out to. But I usually say MLS does not sell properties. What it does is it makes your property available to all the realtors that have access to the MLS. My job is to make sure they're pulling your property up off of the MLS and setting it up to come show it if it matches their search criteria. So that's kind of a little script that I use. But the uncover and prioritize their needs, just saying what's important about this move. What are your dates? Where are you going? Why is that important? Those are just bold scripts. And all these scripts are in this book. So if you printed this out, I know it's like 100 and something pages, but if you printed that out, it's to go through those scripts. And remember, I talked about probably back on day one, having a little notebook, a little pocket-sized notebook, and call it your objection book, where you're capturing any objection that they give you. So like anything that doesn't go the way you wanted it to. You go meet a buyer and you show them a house. Well, they don't give you their information. They don't buy the house. They don't, they would just wanted to come look. Get that in your book. Like, why did they not what did they say when they didn't give you their address and their phone number so you could keep in touch with them now? Maybe you didn't get a buyer agency signed and do a consultation beforehand, right? Or if you go to the seller and you do the listing presentation and they don't list with you that night, what was the last thing they said? Which could have been something like, this is great information. We're going to talk about it and decide what we want to do. And it's like you're sitting there. Okay, well, that makes sense. Where do we go from here? You can't get the listed now, right? Not right then, right now. So write that down. They wanted to think about it. It was great information. So now you can go find scripts that work that you can use that the next time they say that. So what do I say? I say, well, I appreciate that you want all the information, and hopefully I gave you all the information. I'll leave you with one more piece of advice or just information as you're processing this. And this one, guys, listen to this, and you'll probably have to watch the recording to get this one down. But I literally say, are you guys absolutely for sure moving? Are you absolutely for sure moving? Now, behind that, if they're doing new construction and the hole's already built, they're absolutely moving, right? If they told you that it's a relocation to Florida or something like that and they're retiring, that's probably an absolute. And so when I say this, they've already given me the impression they are moving, right? So I say, are you absolutely for sure moving? Yeah, we're absolutely moving, right? So then I want you to consider that between now and when you put that sign in your yard and people start looking at your house, between now and when you list the property, there are buyers out there in the marketplace that are they could be waiting for your home. Your home could be their dream home. And every day that you're not on the market, between now and when you list, I always keep saying that, from now and until you list and go live, they might buy something else. They might settle for second best, and we don't get them back. Once somebody buys a house, you don't get them back. So the other thing to consider is if you're absolutely moving between right now, you're going to get every single buyer in the marketplace up till when you would have come on the market. You're going to have all those buyers come through the market, through the house, and you might catch that buyer that you're their dream home. So if that would happen, I would imagine that most people are just concerned about, well, what if I showed up tomorrow with an offer, not quite full price? Let's just say it's $20,000 under asking price and they want you to move out in a week. What would you say? And I just shut up and let them answer. What do you think they usually say 100% of the time? Well, we wouldn't sell it, right? Say, right, you wouldn't sell it. Now, there's a reason why I had them say that, because I'm going to show them that they have control right now. When they list earlier than they were comfortable listing, they have more control. Now, if that person came in and offered you full price and wanted you to move out in a week, what would you say? And see, I don't care what their answer is. I'm finding out their motivation right now. Say, well, I mean, we're still not ready. We still got to pack and do all this stuff. So if they offered you full price, or let's say they went $10,000 over asking price and said 30 days from today, what would you say? Right? And most of the time, then they're going to say, well, we'd probably sell it. So that's the point, is between, if that buyer is out there today and they would write you an over asking price and be flexible on the closing date, you would have that buyer today. So you're not going to sell your property before you're ready. So that's where that's that closing, actually closing on it. So that's the check for commitment right here, right? And then handling objections. So I would have already kind of gone through that. That's my last, that one script there was my last one to actually go for the close. And it's seriously, most of the time, if they're ready, they're going to sign. So you're handling objections, you're writing those down in your notebook, find your scripts that really work, and you'll internalize those as you use them. But on this, set expectations, negotiate to resolve issues, that's where you're just working through. So if you could get your price for the property, is there anything else that would keep you from signing today? Or I usually don't say the word signing in a listing agreement, I say getting on the market today. Well, we got that stuff we need to fix. Okay, so if you didn't have to fix that stuff, or you could get it fixed, is there anything else? That's kind of what they say about negotiating and resolving issues. But that close is the one that I just use at the very end. If they're not listing, are you absolutely really moving? Then I use that one from now until when you get on the market, you could be losing buyers. So the consultation follow-up, you won. Thank you. I'm telling you, I write a handwritten note that goes in the mail, in the driveway. It gets dropped off at the mailbox on my way home from that appointment. They are with me. It's part of my packet. That way I can get that note in their hands within 48 hours. Mail time might be 3 or 4 days on a slow time. It's Christmas now, so it might take 4 or 5 days. If you're leaving without the listing, that is going in the mailbox immediately. If I wait till I get back to the office, or I do it tomorrow or something like that, chances are I don't write the note. And my handwritten notes are always just, it's always about them. No I, me, or my in the note. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet and show your home. It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to talk about, the American dream, or, getting your equity, or whatever your conversation. Just reference back something about the conversation about them. Say, look forward to working with you. So I just remove the word I, and it takes it off of me and puts it all on them. Okay, I did make a couple notes on winning the next one and all that other stuff. Let's see where I have that. Gotta keep up with my notes here. Consultation, confirm the appointment. Okay, here we go. I'm getting back there. Any questions so far on anything? Okay. Oh, this is important on this part, where you'll win the next one, or deferred or postponed listings. Don't be attached to the outcome. Okay. I mean, I know there sounds a little contradictory when we say, I'm going there to get the listing, but if I don't get the listing, I'm going to learn from what did happen there. And I'm going to learn from what happened. I'm going to find the script that I could use next time, all that stuff. So win the next one. I mean, I almost always, if they did not list with me and they listed with somebody else, I will always call them back. And I kind of am a little bit pesky about it in the first 24 to 48 hours before, because I know the other agent is not doing their instant on listing. They're taking a day or two to get everything together. I'm actually just calling them and saying, hey, I just pride myself on really representing my clients well and getting them the most exposure for their property. And is there anything that you could tell me that I didn't cover with you, or that the other agent talked about that I didn't mention, so that I can find out if there's something that they're saying that I'm missing out on and I need to add into my consultation? Because remember, I suggested at the beginning, narrow it down to the 1, 2, or 3 things that you do, and try not to cover everything that you do, because that's just too much information. And then, yeah, deferred or postponed listing. Once I cross paths with anyone and that note goes in the mail, they're on an 8x8, they're on a 33 touch. And when those plans end, there's always a last step that says start the next plan. So I'm really, truly not going to miss anyone at all. because they're, and in fact, I think I told you guys earlier, I get a comment a lot that you're the only person that stayed in touch with us for the last 6 months, the last year, the last 3 years, because they're on an automatic drip, and it reminds me just to call them and touch base. And I'm just calling saying, hey, it's Brad Gordon, just thinking about you. Didn't know if you had any questions, or if you guys still, oh no, we're still thinking about it. We're just not in a rush. We don't want to give our house away. Of course, there's a lot of scripts I would use that they wouldn't be saying that. It would just, they would know it was me checking in on them. So anyway, okay, so that's it for listing consultation. Is there anything about your consultations that you guys are experiencing that I may not have covered?
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's an objection you had in the past that you didn't cover, that maybe another buyer,
An objection that I've had that I didn't cover? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, if you lost the listing and if you called the person and asked them, what didn't I cover, or what didn't I go over? Why did you use somebody else? What's an example of what they said?
Yeah, so for example, there was one that, and this is really tracking at a high level, because I track everything, man. I'm competitive and I want to know if I'm winning or losing. So I got into the Dave Ramsey's program. Now, Dave Ramsey's program is the finance guy. He's on the radio. He's talking about, the endorsed providers. So I was one of his endorsed providers. Well, I had an in to get into that program. The other guy that was there was dominating. I mean, he was taking all the listings. He was somebody that spoke at Dave Ramsey's conferences and all that stuff, and he's a local guy here. So when I came in, I'm big on follow-up. I call people back instantly. I get them in my system, and I drip on them until we get the appointment. In fact, I'm still closing Dave Ramsey deals, and I haven't been in Dave Ramsey's program for years. And I'm still closing deals that I don't have to pay a referral fee on, because I'm not in Dave Ramsey's program anymore. So I came in and I started taking all these listings away from this other agent, because 3 people are getting their number each time. So I started taking all these listings away. So that was like awesome for several months. My numbers and my statistics and conversion rates were really good. And Dave Ramsey checks those really close. So I'm watching that. And then all of a sudden it switched about 3 or 4 months in, and it started kind of coming back the other way. And I went on a couple that I didn't get. Well, I'm not used to not getting a listing appointment. I said that yesterday. Out of 97 listings that come on the market, or out of 100 that come on the market, I got 97 of them. That was black and white. I could track it. So anyway, it started turning, and I wasn't like 2 or 3 in a row I didn't get. So I called them back and asked them, and it's like, what I heard was, well, the other Ramsey guy, he has the technology thing. He puts a rider on the sign that has a QR code, was basically what it was. And so that technology was like, he just had a little more technology. Well, I didn't talk about all my technology, right? And we are way above technology. In fact, I had already used those riders 5 years prior, and we got nothing out of them. So all I did on the very next appointment, once I heard that once or twice, is I just added that in and say, so, and that's one of the opening statements. I talk about the MLS. And then I say, now the biggest thing is about exposure to your home, right? One thing an agent can't do is make people come see your home. So it's all about exposure. So a lot of agents will tell you all these things they do to get you all this exposure, but they're not following up with the buyers. They're not really capturing their information. They're not returning their call. And so some of them are, they'll put a rider on there, and it's got like one of those things you come over and you scan it with your phone, so, well, actually, here's what I started with. I said, you got the sign sitting in the yard with an agent's name and number on it. I said, how many agents have you called from sign calls where you drove by a house that looked nice and you picked up the phone while you're sitting in front of it and called an agent? They're like, yeah, we really haven't done that. Right. So the other thing is, some people will use technology, put a rider with a little scanner code on there. So how many times have you gotten out of your car in front of a property and walked over and scanned, the thing to get the information? Yeah, we've never done that. Right. And then I'll say something like the flyer boxes, because do you guys have flyer boxes in your market? Do people put those flyer boxes out? So here's how I shot down the flyer boxes, because I didn't want to manage flyer boxes. It's stupid. There was not a return on investment for me. And it was more of a pain in the butt to keep the dang thing full. I said, flyer boxes, how many times have you stopped and picked up a flyer? Now that was a setup question, because they go, oh, we love doing that. Yeah. And how many times did you call or get any information to the realtor after you picked up the flyer. Yeah, no. So I had an 800 number writer, which again, it's still a writer, but I'm selling my value proposition and why this is better. And I said, we have a 1-800 number free recorded message that they can call. So they can sit in their car, even during the winter months when there's snow, 12 inches of snow, the curb is there. There's that 800 number that they can call and listen to a recording. It is capturing their number and sending it to us. So I know this sounds a little outdated. And actually, today's technology is very challenging because those ways to capture buyers are way different. They can just Google the address and find everything they want now sitting in their car. So that brings up a whole new challenge, which is why our app is so awesome, because we're getting more exposure and we're coming up higher in the searches with the things that they're doing, so that when they Google it, we're towards the top. And you want to do everything you can to be at the top. You want to be on the first link, second link, or third link. But in that presentation, I would say my 1-800 number, anybody will call an 800 number. They know it's free. And it's you're not talking to the realtor or anything, but technically as a seller, you know, I'm being paged their name and number, and I'm calling them back probably while they're still sitting in front of the property. So we just get more at bats than anybody else will. So I just discounted everything that I possibly could about the other ones. Doesn't mean they don't work, and it doesn't mean, you know, that I wouldn't use them. But when I was taking on my competition, that was a specific one that I changed my verbiage because of that. Make sense?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Cool. All right, anybody else? Okay, so servicing and marketing the listing. Service standard, what you want to do is you want to create your standard, your system of what you do every time you list a property. And the main thing is just tracking everything that you for the next, say, half a dozen to a dozen listings that you take. Have a check, just have an item list that you keep track of everything you do. Because especially when you're newer and you're doing listings, you'll take a new listing, right? And you just kind of figuring it out. Somebody helps you fill out the contract, you get it on the market, you get it in MLS. You may not have even filled in all the MLS, you know, slots. You may not have put all the pictures in. But then the next one you do, you just heard something about how you can put it in KWLS and go to an extra 150 websites. So make sure you add that to your list. So as you do more listings, you're doing more listings, so you're more aware of the things that you need to do to market the listing, where you might not have given full service on your first, second, or third one, but you're giving more service on the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 10th one. And especially as you finish out the year and you get consistent, where you're doing a consistent 1, 2, 3, 5 listings a month, that's when you're going to start having this standard really show up. And it's a system. So mine's just a smart plan. That from the time we list until they get a contract, here's what happens. This happens on day 0, these 3 things. These 4 things happen on day 2. These 2 things happen on day 4. So nothing happens on day 3. Nothing. We did most of the stuff we needed to do. But day 3 or 4 might be waiting for some other websites to capture their information and have them show up on their site, so that, like on day 5, I think it is, we pull up Google, we type in their address, and now they're on the first 2 pages of Google. But you won't get that on the first day. So that's not part of our checklist on day 0. We got to get it feeding out to the websites. There, day 14 is to call and set up a time to sit down with them, or call them and go over the market review. So already 2 weeks in, we're just going to pull up on MLS what's come on the market since they listed with us. So from their list date on, what's brand new active on the market, so we can show them who the newest competition is. And we could even probably put their list date and later for contract in the contract date spot. And we can show them who's gotten contracts in the last 2 weeks. There's almost always going to be 0 on that one. I mean, it's a lower number of what came on the market and what went under contract. If you priced everything well and like you did that stuff, you're going to be one of the ones that are sold if you're doing a 14-day. And if you're doing a 14-day and 10 properties went under contract and they were somewhere around your price range, then you missed the boat. So that'll tell you that before you even get to that 14 days. So we did that, and that helped me keep things priced better, because I could show them that we weren't missing any buyers. Or if we were, and I don't even remember a time where I saw everybody else selling and I didn't. I mean, it usually was rebuying their confidence that we have not sold yet, but nobody else has either. So one of my most recent one that just closed last week was my best friend from high school. Oh my gosh, you know how it is when you list your best friend's house, and he's in the title business. He was the worst seller ever. Every showing is like, did you get feedback yet? It's like, dude, they're like in their car in the driveway, man. What are you doing? So I mean, I have the same stuff you guys do. But when we listed it, we were cheaper than the other stuff that was for sale in the neighborhood. So everybody was so far out on the higher price from what was going under contract, but there was nothing else available. And it was a ranch desirable home in a desirable neighborhood that we priced right here. Right. And we must add 10 people through, and there were no offers. We had to do 2 price drops before we finally started getting an offer. And he actually got an offer about 10,000 under whatever price it was. That third price drop we took, he got an offer for 10,000 less, had 18 showings. And that, I mean, we just maxed the market out. It should have sold for $30,000 more, but the buyers are in control of that, not us, right? So I still netted him more than he thought he was going to net when we're looking at the net sheet, but he just the price is what they were like looking at when you show them the net. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, that's going to be the net I want. Well, then go ahead and drop the price, because we've had 6 more people through and no offers. We just have to keep adjusting until we get to the buyer, and we adjust quickly. He didn't do that at first. He took a whole week at one price and didn't want to drop it that fast. After I told him, you're not going to want to drop in, right away, but you're going to need to if you want to capture the buyers. So he might have even gotten a higher price had he dropped his price every 24 or 48 hours. Once we got 5 or 6 people through and no offers, we dropped the price $5,000. I don't care if it's just 5,000. A lot of people might do your market. You might do $10,000 or $20,000 drops at a time. I would tell the seller, let's do $4,000 or $5,000 drops every day for 4 days versus waiting 4 days and drop 20. Because every time I change it just a little bit, I'm popping back up on some websites. I usually don't drop something $1,000 or $2,000 or $4,000 because it's really not even getting into the next $5,000 price break that somebody would be searching by. And especially if we're getting to the $25,000, $50,000, and $100,000 price points, I will always stop right on those at, say, like $425, $450, $500. I don't do $499.9. I do $500 because of the internet world. Search pull down menus are 500 and up. You can do set your low end and your high end. Nobody does low end at $499.9. They do it at 500, right? So if I did something at $499.9 and dropped the price to that, anybody looking in their search range from 500 to 600 won't even see the house. It's invisible, does not exist. And at $499.9, the 500,000 and up buyer, you're the cheapest thing in their stack. But really, all I've got looking at the house at $499.9 is everybody searching from 300 to 400,000. So I lost a whole group of buyers, and that's how I get more exposure. Right there, I just gave you another script. That is your unique selling proposition to a seller, is how we price your home can get you twice as much exposure as a traditional agent. And they're going to be thinking like, $499.9. If sellers even say those types of prices, you think we should drop it to $499.9? No, we should drop it to 500 even and get twice as many buyers on the house. And we might have been coming, say, from like 515. He was a perfect example. 515 to drop to get under 500 so we could get the thing sold. But if we priced it at 500, I don't leave these buyers where we've been getting showings, right? But if I go to 499 or even 489.9, from 515 to 489.9, I just lost the 500 buyers. I left all the 500 and up buyers behind, and we were getting showings there. Once we get to the next range, you're going to be the highest price thing in their search. So I know I spent a little extra time on that. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Because that's a big one. All right, so that's your standards in there. So my standard is every 2 days, we've got showing report to do, check the showing report and see how many showings there have been. And if there's been 5 or more showings, then we're probably already preparing for a price change. Also in my standard is at day 14, my system prints out a price change form. If they have not changed their price in 2 weeks and they're on the market, we're changing the price. It's right there. I've got to get that done. If I have to go meet with them to convince them that here's everything that's on the market, here's what's gone under contract, which are usually at the lower price. Very, very seldom. I'm going to almost say hardly ever do I see houses selling at the price I'm at when we should have sold there. They're always selling for less, or they're selling for more. And what you're looking at on those reports on MLS is there's a gap right where we're sitting. Nobody has bought anything. And that was the exact conversation I told them. Nobody has bought anything at 475. Nobody. The only ones that were selling were 465 down to 435. So we started at 500 and we ended up selling that property for 460 something. So when he got that 460 offer, I showed him the report. Since you listed, no houses have gone under contract at 475. They were all 515 and up, or they were under 460. So the fact that we got a 460 offer actually means you're the highest of the lower end properties, right? And that's because most of the other ones were new construction. So let's see, team service, highly productive listing agents, develop, document, train their teams. So on ours, I will tell you that smart plans can be your whole training. If you even get to the team's status, or you're going to have a big team, I create our standard in a smart plan. These things happen on day 0. These things happen by day 2. These things happen by day 14. You got 30 days, you got all that extra stuff. So a good one, a good example to use is Craigslist, right? So if you're listing properties on Craigslist, Craigslist would kick your property out after so many days. So we had to go in and have a task in there to make sure we reposted it on Craigslist and relisted it as a new listing. It could be that you're just going in to change the price or change something in the MLS or update pictures after 30 days, whatever that might be, or to post it on our Facebook page. So even 2 weeks later, wherever we post, if our business page is just listings rolling through there. Nobody's hanging out on my Facebook page just watching how many, look at, he listed another one. Look, he listed another one. All right, I love this page. No, because they're all different prices, all different ranges, all different everything. It's just for exposure and Google juice more than anything. Buyers are not hanging out on my Facebook page. So, but once that thread goes down by the end of 30 days, we have to repost that again and get it up in the top and get it exposure again. So plus it's probably at a new price and all the other things. So anyway, when I say develop and document, it's tracking the things that we're doing, systematizing it so you do it the same way on every listing. And we use that as our training. I mean, I don't even really have a training plan for my team. It just tells us all what to do and we do it. The training part might be, so how do I do this? And then we show them how to do it then. Most people can figure most of it out most of the time, but that's just me. If you're building a more like expansion model, corporate model thing, there's probably training that your people are going through. I just know as a business coach, people can't remember more than 25% of what they hear. Like if I asked you right now, tell me the 100 things that we covered over the last 2 days. I mean, you might be able to give me 5 of them, right? So that's just how things are. So marketing plan. I mean, all of this stuff with the marketing, the message, managing your marketing budget. I will talk about staging though. The marketing stuff, I mean, we'll try stuff and track it and see if we're getting response from it. We really, really track it. Even when we did print advertising with the 800 number, I could track how many calls I got. So you want to be able to capture that information, know where that stuff's coming in. Here, write this down. Go to Google and type in your a listing address that you have. Whenever you get your next listing, go to Google and type in the address. It's like the house numbers and the street name. Get a page or two of Google Docs. Click on every single one of them and fill out the form. Where are your leads going? That's going to be a wake-up call for you, because then it's going to make you look at your marketing plan and why are you missing the leads, and who are they? They're going to realtor.com, sending them to somebody else because they're paying for some leads or something. So when you fill out that form, here's what's going to happen. Your phone's going to start ringing. It might not be immediately, but it's going to start ringing, and it's going to be your competition that's calling on your own listing. So kind of create a fake name if everybody knows who you are. I can't use corn like when I do it because everybody knows it's Brad Corn. However, I have actually had an agent probably just like in the last 6 months or a year, actually called me. He was in my office at KW, and now he's not at KW anymore. He left, and I mean, probably only sells 10, 15 homes a year, but we were in the same office. He called me and he's talking to me. And I said, I put my own name in and I said, you know who you're talking to, right? And then he looked at it, he goes, oh, this is Brad. And it's like, I already got half of his scripts. I heard everything he was saying. Now that was one where they did call me back immediately because he had a call service that called first and said, hey, this guy's waiting to talk to you. I blew them off the first 4 times and they just kept calling. And so I was like, okay, I got to pay attention to this. Now they've got my attention. So I let it roll on through and I listened to the script, and we changed the way we do things now to where we return those calls even faster. And I use some of those scripts to capture and get them on an MLS search right away, because that was how they were working it. So by the way, that was on a property that we had already had under contract for 30 days. So anyway, it wasn't like I had one that he was calling on to sell or whatever. Staging, I'm going to give you a simple one. I try to keep everything super simple. And I just tell the sellers, now you could hire a stager to come in and do all that stuff. I did that once, and they pretty much just did what I would have told the seller to do anyway. No more than 1 or 2 things on every wall, shelf, or flat surface, right? That's called decluttering, by the way. No more than 1 or 2 things on every wall, shelf, flat surface. And of the 1 things that you have out, I always say our HGTV rule, because everybody watches HGTV, so I leverage the brand. Our HGTV rule, and now I've been on HGTV too, so it lets me say that. So I've been on HGTV. Our HGTV rule is no more than 1 or 2 things. That can't be a personal item and or anything that would remind me that I'm in a stranger's house, because we want the buyer to stay in your house a minute, 2 minutes longer, 5 minutes longer than any other house that they go look at that day. Now, most agents do not have this conversation with people, right? So if you go into a house, I just said this last night. I said, if you guys go into a house, because they have a lot of stuff, if you guys go into a house and there's underwear in the laundry room, it's I mean, it's just uncomfortable, right? And they were like, this house, we went to a house that had underwear in the laundry room. See, I'm just kind of bringing back memories of what they've been experiencing. Picking up signs and flyers out of the flyer boxes. You know, they haven't done that, let alone, or they did that, but they didn't call the agent. So just hiring an agent that does a flyer box is not going to get more exposure to your house. You could put a flyer box out front. You don't need to pay anybody a commission if that's what's going to sell your house. See how I just dumbed that whole thing down and just made it kind of worthless. So that one thing on the staging is no more than 1 or 2 things. So that wall over there that has those 5 pictures, just narrow it down to 1 or 2. And if it can be model home-like stuff that you leave out, that's great. That bookshelf, every other shelf only has 1 or 2 things on it. Put all the books away, put all the stuff away. Because in a picture of a house on the internet this big, all that stuff makes everything look smaller. You want that room to look as big as possible. So once I have them do the staging, and so here's the other part I say, I don't want you to stress out about it, because you're going to go in some houses. You guys have houses, they have a lot of stuff. They're kind of freaking out if you're telling them no more than 1 or 2 things. I say it's as simple as grabbing an egg timer, turn it on for 15 minutes, set a box in the middle of the floor, and anything sitting on the counter is just set in the box. You're not packing to move yet. You're just setting it in a box and slide it in the garage. Go get another box and keep going until you've gone through every room in the house and you've just set stuff in the box and set it in the garage. You're going to have all the time in the world to pack. We just got to get you on the market now, not a week from now. We don't want to lose any buyers. So everything's kind of in line here. You get this stuff in the box, you can come back and organize. You can bring a box in every night and just repack it, reorganize it, put it somewhere else, whatever. We just got to get the pictures on, get you live, so we don't miss that buyer that you might be the dream home that they're willing to pay more than asking price for. We don't know if they're out there or not, right? So that's on staging. And then pricing we talked about yesterday. So all right, let's see how I'm doing. All right, we're doing great. We're on chapter 5. Any questions? Let me pause there and give you guys a break to ask any questions. Is this good stuff? Are you guys hanging? Yeah? All right, cool. I'm getting to
Hey,
chapter
Brad,
5. Yeah, go ahead.
quick question. Sorry. Do you do anything with voicemail drops, maybe around the neighborhood or around an open house? Are we allowed to do voicemail drops or no? I know it's something
Well,
they
it's
do in the investment world, but I don't know about real estate on the realtor side.
yeah. So you're talking about an automated voicemail that somehow you get all their numbers and you just drop the voicemail.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, because of the no call list, you can run into some issues there unless you're really using a company that's got a filter, a way to filter all that stuff. Here's the thing with that marketing. And again, it kind of goes back to the very first day. If I really, this is going to sound stupid, but just hear me out. If I really wanted to dominate that neighborhood, and give me an example of how many homes would get that voicemail drop. How many homes are in the average neighborhood you might market to?
I don't know, figure maybe 300, 400 homes.
300, 400 homes. And is that a neighborhood you would market on a regular basis, or is it a one-shot deal to do something specific and then you're done in there? Or are you kind of sticking around?
It's marketing around the listing.
Yeah. Okay. So once you get a listing, and if you're going to market around that listing for that listing, so we talked about yesterday or the other day, people are most likely going to move from 5 miles around your listing at 50% less than where your listing is. So I might do a more direct marketing piece to those people for the listing, only because I used to do the houses up and down and on the other side. And that would be to the purpose of getting a listing you're more about getting the listing on that, even though the neighbors might know somebody that could move in there and buy it. Doesn't happen very often. So I track that very closely, and I wasn't really picking up a lot of new listings around my listings for doing that. So I quit doing it because the ROI of the time spent putting it together wasn't working. So you got to track it first. So if you do the voicemail blast, track it. If you get nothing, your next 3 listings, and you do it on every one and you don't get one listing appointment, there's no reason to do it anymore. It's not working.
Right. Yeah, right? Makes sense. Yep.
And so the second part of that is, if I wanted to really truly get a listing and I wanted to go the houses on each side of the street and around whatever, well, gosh, that's probably about 30 or 40 homes. If I went to 5 a day and knocked on the door until they answered their door, I can hit 100 homes in the next 30 days while that thing's on the market. I can hit 50 homes in the next 14 days while it's on the market. However many, I can just start from my listing and knock on doors if I was going to do that. So it's much easier to have somebody throw a voicemail together, but if it doesn't do anything, it's still a waste of time and you're not getting anything for it. So I would knock on the door and meet the sellers, and then but because I met them, and because of the way I've been teaching you guys at the very beginning, they get a handwritten note, they go on an 8x8, and they will hear from me for the rest of their life if I connected with them. Then I'm building a pipeline of owning that neighborhood over time.
Yep.
Make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah, it's not the easy, fun, quick, fast way that's hands off. Hands off doesn't work. There's too much noise out there today. So great question. All right, anybody else on that? Because the next one is offers and negotiations, and then really chapter 6, 7, and 8 are kind of recap and quick stuff. So I'm gonna, I got plenty of time. This actually worked out perfect. Okay, so this is step 5 on offers and negotiations. First of all, anybody else, just in case you were like, I was gonna go, but he started going again. All right, so let's go through this. Presenting the offer, best practices, moment of truth, multiple offers, lowball offers, because I knew this was going to be a big one for you guys. First of all, presenting the offers. Never let your sellers reject an offer. That's my opinion only. But here's the way I look at it. You can't sell your house if you reject the offer. And you got to take that personal, like, oh, that is just, I can't believe they offered that, or whatever it is. It's like, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you put your house on the market to sell it, right? Right. Did you want to be in such and such? Right. But we're not giving it away. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if you reject it, you can't sell the house. You can't sell the house. I mean, and listen to this. So here's my script, and it's a setup again for them to do the right thing. And I say, if anything, you could counter something freaking ridiculous. Go over your asking price, and let's just play the game right back up. Yeah. So, okay. So now as we start to write that up and figure that out, It's like, all right, so what do you guys, I mean, really, if this buyer could buy it and put it together, what's that net that you want to get out of the house again? Do it, and then I'll show them. So that's really this price here. If you could get them to do that price and you netted that and they said yes, and you were closing and you could be in Florida in 45 days, so would that be a good thing? So I got them over the heated moment, the reaction to the personal, stab. Now I got them back to reality again. Is go, let's talk about what that would net you, right? So what's the net you have to have? Well, that jerk's going to at least pay me 5,000 more. Okay, well, that's a way better counter offer than what he thought he was going to do, and it's probably still not asking price. The example I just gave you of my best friend, it was almost 10,000, a little over 10,000 less than the price we had just dropped it to, and we had done 3 price drops, and there was almost no battle because I just showed him the net, and I said, "This is going to net you this if you take this." He's like, "Well, I'd be good with that. I did all right." I was like, "I think you did great." So we can counter and they could walk, or if that net's good, you could have that picture, that check in your hand. So that's another thing. If I wrote you a check and it had this amount on it, and give them the symbol of handing the check. If I hand you that $75,000 check today, would you take it? It's like, yeah, we'd be happy. Then let's do the right thing and counter at that. And then they just forgot about it. So they're out of the heat of the moment. So never reject it, right? Let's see. Oh, I had one that came up and the agent said they got all pissed off because I said something about, cat smell can actually hurt the sale of a property, but my buyer is a cat lover. And because you have cats, she loves your house, right? Well, they got all offended because I said something about cat smells do ruin the sale of houses. Do you all know that? I mean, have you all had that conversation with people? Cats and cigarette smoke are the 2 biggest things that kill a deal in real estate. It's like a standard speech. It's in Real Estate 101 book. Does anybody not heard that before?
Definitely heard that.
What's that?
Definitely heard it and lived it, to be honest, with the cigarette smoke.
Yeah. So this new kid, this agent, and it's an internet agent. So that's the other thing that I'm dealing with. But he actually said, well, we just can't control our sellers sometimes. I was like, over a cat comment? I mean, I could look at that letter again and there's no way there could be any offense taken from it. I mean, he should have controlled that right there, because if that happened on my side and my seller did the same thing, see, I can't control them not reacting like that. But I would say, no, Mr. Seller, I understand. Here's the thing. Of all the other people that saw your house, nobody was willing to make an offer. Whether this person makes you mad or not, they made you an offer. Right? So what do you need to net out of this to get it? Right? So I'm going to control and calm that down and get them out of that mode and start talking about that net sheet. So it could have been me on that same end with that same seller, and it would not have been the same outcome. Right? They would have gotten a counter offer, even if it was a ridiculous offer. Right? So don't be mad at them. I mean, they're just making you an offer. Right? And this is a cat lover. I get them off of that stuff. Anyway, so that's let me see here. What do I got on lowball offers? Here's a great one for lowball offers. If an agent sends you a lowball offer, don't get all defensive. Don't be tied to the outcome. Don't react. Don't do anything in your seller's side. Just say, hey, I'm going to do my best to present this and get my seller to consider it. I know it looks like a low offer. Here's your script. Do you have any comps that you could give me to support the offer that you're bringing me? What can you give me to help me sell this offer to my seller? And all I'm doing, I'm telling you guys, every time I've used that, most of the time the agent says, I don't have any. And what did I just set them up for? Now I know they know that this is a ridiculous offer and they're dealing with a buyer that they can't control. So once I know that and I can come back to my seller, now I got to change my hats from being against that person to I'm kind of against my seller for a second, against the fact that they make any stupid decisions and reject the offer. Now I got to talk about net. Here's the net sheet. What do you have to net? And whatever my lowball offer is, and they tell me they have to net, that net usually will match or be a little lower than what they told me when we originally listed, because now they've been on the market, they've had showings. It's like, what do you have to really get? I'm talking after the loans are paid off and everything, right? What's that amount got to be? Well, yeah, we're down to, we just got to get 60 at least. Okay, so this offer is coming in at 50,000. We thought that was a low ball. So really what we're saying is we need to counter them $10,000. And they're like, well, I don't want to give my house away. No, this is going to net you $60,000. Isn't that what you need? Right. And it's like, yeah, I mean, 65 would be better. They really can't say 100 would be better. Yeah, $1 million would be better. They're not going to get the setup into that conversation, but 65 would be better. Okay, so don't get offended. What do you want to go back for, 60 or 65? Well, let's try 65. Okay, so if we send back 65, and they walk and they decide not to buy it, and you don't get another buyer for another 30 days, are you okay with that? Right? So these are just these are all the scripts that you hear, but they're kind of rolled into conversation now because I've been doing it so long. But it's like, so are you okay if they walk on 65? I mean, because you don't get a second chance at that. These are all scripts. You don't get a second chance if they decide to walk, or they might have a number 2 favorite. It's another great script. They might have another 2 favorites. So if we counter at this price and that tips them the scale to go to number 2, are you going to be okay not getting them? Well, no, because we'd be okay with 60. Okay, so what they just tell me? We're countering 6 to get them 60,000 net, not 65. That's 5,000 less on the counter. Now, when I get them to whatever that number is, so if they buy another house or they walk, you're going to be okay with that. And when they say, yeah, we're not going to do it for any less than 60, right? My buddy had his bottom dollar, and that's exactly what I got him at 460. So they got their bottom dollar. I say, great, then that's what we need to counter at. And if they walk, then you're going to be okay with that. You're not going to be kicking yourself later. So I've had people walk on $1,000 counter offer. It was ridiculous that they did that. And then afterwards, they're like, no, can we get them back? It's like, no, I told you, you don't get a second chance. I was not joking when I said that. That's like for real. So anyway, lowball offers.
Hey, Brad.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been really wanting to include, and I probably should have been doing this the whole time, but I've been really wanting to include like a net sheet in my listing presentation, just because it really comes down to the dollars and cents for them. Obviously, right? They want to see, if I could show you a way when they start bringing up commissions. And you talk about this is what you're going to net after all said and done, and they see that number, not realizing that it's a 6% commission baked in there.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, that's great. And then all of a sudden, that just nullified the whole commission negotiation. Is there like a standard net sheet that you use? And I'm just assuming that every state is different because of the fees and stuff like that, transfer tax and stuff.
Yeah, so
is there a net sheet use?
Yeah, so what you do is you just take a net sheet that you have right now for wherever market you're in. Like I took that, whatever the titles are, there's a box next to it, the closing statement that the title company has, right? I just created a Excel spreadsheet that looks just like that. It's got the 2 columns. It's got the purchase price. It's got the taxes over here. It's got their loan amount here, the payoff of their loan. It's got the title company closing costs, the title policy fees. You might have attorney fees, whatever that might be. And then down at the bottom, I even have buyer's closing costs and some other stuff. I have the warranty plan in there. It's just an Excel spreadsheet. And there's some formulas built in there for the title company fees and stuff. But once I put that purchase price in and I put the taxes in, my closing date column will calculate, like if I put closes in the 11th month, like right now we're using the first month, January. Anything I list now would close in January. So it automatically takes the tax column, divides it by 12 and dumps an amount in there. So I can like create a net sheet in 2 seconds. I just put the purchase price in, their loan amount in, check my commission. It's already set on the Excel spreadsheet. It's already there. It'll take the purchase price and calculate the commission rate. So it's an Excel spreadsheet. Takes a little bit of time just to set it up, but I've been using that spreadsheet, that net sheet for 30 years, ever since I set it up. And it's just sitting on my desktop and it says seller's net. So anytime I pop it in, I just have to put in the purchase price, the taxes, and their loan, which that also leads to why one of my questions on my form is, what is your loan payoff, right? What's your, oh, there it is right there. What's your loan balance? I have to ask that because I have to bring the net sheet, because I don't want to talk about price at the listing appointment. I want to talk about net. And nothing's hidden. All those fees are in there, including my commission rate. Just add probably 1% to anything that you were thinking before. That amount's on there. And it shows the amount that's coming to me, but I can address it right there and go, now I don't get all this. And I draw a circle around the commission and I say, the agent gets 3.5%, I get this amount. And then by the time I draw another line off of that, and I say, and then that person that sells your property or brings you the buyer, their brokerage takes about half of that. It costs about 50 to 60% of our commission to run a real estate business. That's in the MREA, by the way. So if their company's on a 50-50 split, they're going to take half of it. That leaves 1%, right? So if you hire somebody, and I just draw right next to it, you could get somebody to list it for 5%. But it's going to be 2.5 going to the listing side, 2.5 going to the selling side. The companies are going to all take a half. So they have 1% to work off of at the end of the day. So what's the incentive to pick that property over one down the street that's paying 3.5% versus 2.5%? So that's how I justify the commission is, I want every realtor to show your property. Have you heard me say it's about exposure to your house? I can't make anybody make you an offer, but I need to make sure everybody who would show it would show it. And the best way to do that is to pay a higher commission split. And you're really not paying it. See, I also know my numbers that we average 98.6% list to sale price ratio when the market's at 96%. Right now, the market's at 98, but we're at 101. So it really doesn't cost you more. We're getting our sellers 3% higher sale price. Now understand, I base that on 4 times as many sales as the other agents I'm comparing this to, and we're averaging 3% higher. So that little extra percentage is really netting you 2% more. So that's a conversation I get to have because I see it on the net sheet. And then when I do go through the net sheet, I hit every single number. But after we've gone over where we're going to price it, the 3 reports, I say, so, based on this, can you see where you would probably be? Yeah, so we'd be around 500. Well, guess what I've got on my estimated net sheet? 500. Right. And you can bring a couple if you have to until you start getting it down. And if they said 525, and by the time I got there, I was like, yeah, this is easily 525. All I have to do is add 25 grand to the bottom line, and it shows them what they're netting. It's just a rough estimate. But I got that net sheet there. So once we determine the price, I pull it out and go, I just happen to kind of pull one out that's that price. I don't make a big deal out of it. So here's all the costs. You got to pay the loan off, get this recorded. The title company charges this, and I write optional next to the warranty plan. But this is really good to offer up front because most people ask you for it anyway. So it just depends on your market. But I have all that stuff in there, and I say, and I circle the net. So when you sell the house and pay your loan off after everything's done, you're going to walk away with a check for $125,000. And by then, I've already found out from them, what do you need to net out of this? That was towards the front of the conversation. What do you guys really need to net out of here? Why are you moving? Why is that date important? What do you need to net? And they'll say 500,000. I say, no, I mean, after your loan's paid off and costs and everything, what are you using the equity for? Well, we got to put money down on our new house. Okay, how much is that? Okay, we did want to pay off our daughter's student loan. She's got 10,000 left on that. Okay, so if I wrote you a check right now today and handed it to you, what's that amount need to be? 500,000. No. After your loan, like this is nobody else to pay. You could use, well, we need 125. Okay, that is probably already the number that's on my net sheet at the price I think we should price it at. They can't calculate all that stuff in their head, and I'm telling you, over 70-80% of the time, my net sheet is on or higher than what they want to net. If it's less than what they want to net, it's a crappy market and nothing's going to sell for that, and they're not going to get that money. So they're kind of an unrealistic seller. Does that make sense? So
yes, sir.
Spend a little time on that spreadsheet. Just take one and just imagine just duplicating it on a spreadsheet. And you're not going to have all the super detailed stuff, but the basic stuff: price, taxes, if there's an attorney fee, warranty plans, any of that kind of stuff. I think so. Responding to the offer, I mean, you just respond as fast as you can. When I'm delivering offers, I ask them how soon could they get with the seller if I get my seller to make it or my buyer to make you an offer. On the other side, when I get the offer, if I know it's coming in, I'm already responding to every single person that's shown it. I'll go into showings. I'll select all the agents that have shown it, take off the agent that said they're sending an offer in, send them all a message and go, I don't know if your buyers have bought anything yet, but if they were sleeping on this one, I've got an offer coming in. I didn't want your people to miss out on it. Will you be showing it again, or call me on my cell phone if there's any chance you might want to get an offer in? So that creates a sense of urgency. I respond to everybody. That's just an automatic. Every past showing gets a message from us. And if that one doesn't go through and another offer comes in the next day, everybody else gets one. Go, hey, we just got an offer, including probably the agent that we didn't take their offer because they might have changed their mind or regretted not taking the counter offer. So you just tell your seller, you either take the offer, you can accept the offer, you can counter the offer, you can reject the offer, but I don't even use reject as an option. So you're going to counter or talk about net and see if they'll take it. So anyway, I just wanted to, we're probably right at just a couple of minutes over. So I'm just going to go through here and see if there's anything major that you guys might have questions on, because the rest of this is following up after the contract and staying in touch with them after. This was the more critical stuff, which is absolutely perfect. We did great timing. But let's see here. Make sure every contract contains, just make sure the offers are written every single time. Guys, if you do anything verbal and a written offer shows up and it's better, and you told the agent, yeah, we'll get everything signed and initialed later, by law, you probably have to show them the written offer that showed up. And if your seller wants to take that, you're in a world of hurt. I tell buyers agents all the time, I've got to get it in writing if you want to make sure it's locked in. Otherwise, I'm never, ever committing to it. And I tell them, if another offer comes in and it's better terms and it's in writing, I have to present it. So get me that in writing. Chapter 6 was talking about contract to close. So this is more about bulletproofing your transactions, setting a campaign or action plan up to remember to check everything. So like sending you transfer of utilities. If we're closing 45 days down the road, our plan is 45 days long. So on day 40, they're going to get an automatic email that says, have you checked on your utilities to make sure they come out of your day on the day, or out of your name on the day of closing. And then the day of closing, there's a to-do that pops up and says, make sure to ask if the utilities got changed. Did they leave all the keys? Did they leave the garage door openers? Every little thing that starts happening in your transaction, create a smart plan and add more steps in your smart plan every time something happens. And what you'll notice is when you create these, when you first get an offer accepted, there's a ton of crap that has to happen. You got to get the lender the copy, you got to get the title company or the attorney, you got to get all this stuff everywhere. And then nothing happens for 30 days. That's just ghost town, right? But we're busy working every day. They're sitting there wondering, I wonder if our house is really sold. We haven't heard from anybody. So when we saw those gaps, we started adding personal touches back in through the transaction to remind us to call them 14 days after the offer's been accepted, when nothing's really happening and they're just waiting on this or waiting on that and kind of sitting out there in la la land. So we're calling them going, hey, we got everything under control. We actually have 2 or 3 letters that just print and send out that say, at this stage in the game, inspections should be complete. So that's happening 14 days after the contract's been accepted. Inspection should be complete. We should have everything, blah, blah, blah. If you have any questions or something in this list has not happened yet and you're wondering about it, give us a call. So our system actually triggers them to call us if we miss something too. But we've got all of our triggers to make sure it's all happening so that doesn't happen. But yeah, you got to get the title looked at, loan underwritten. We have triggers in our seller when our seller contract to close plan. There's triggers in there to contact the buyer's lender directly. We're not waiting on somebody else to tell us if it's good. We're going to try and get through. Even if they say we can't talk to you, that's fine. That step is still in there and most of the time they will. Yeah, everything's going good. We got one little thing that you might talk to the agent about. So now I can just pick up the phone and make that call. That's not going to be in my system, but my system allows me to react to those things quicker. So there's just in your book, there's a couple of these checklists that give you stuff for your smart plan that you can actually put in. So, and just remember, agents both want to move the thing forward. The buyer and seller both want to buy a property and sell a property. Your job is to keep that thing moving forward and just do everything. Like you might be doing the other agent's job, but because it's in our system and we're checking on things, right? We call the lender and they're like, yeah, we got some issues going on. We call the buyer's agent. They're like, oh, I had no clue. And we're already intercepting this thing before it gets out of control. And the agent loves working with us. So I think that's about it. The post-close stuff was just talking about asking for testimonials and reviews. Oh, I'll add this. If you really truly want Google reviews, plan on 5 to 7 touches to make sure you get it and mix them up. Mail something to them that says, here's the Google review. We'd love for you to do it. I know they're going to click a link to leave a Google review, but if you just send an email out one time, you're not going to get very many reviews. If you send the email out, and then send a text that says, hey, there was an email sent out. Actually, I'll do it even better. You mail something out after closing, so they get it 3 days later, right? So they originally got an email that says, leave us a Google review. And then if they did the Google review, there's a to-do that pops up the next day. It says, check to see if they gave you the Google review. They didn't, so we just let it roll. A letter goes in the mail the next day. They get it 3 days later. 4 days later, they get another email, and 5 days later, they get a text to look for the email, to look for the letter that asked for the Google review. Once we do all that, and then the last step of it is to call. And then we call them, and after we've done all of that, hey, we're just checking on that Google review. Once they've done the Google review, we can stop the Google review plan. They're not going to get anything else from us. They already did it. So we stop the plan, all future activities stop. But until we get it, we've made 6, 7 attempts. And if you don't get it after the phone call and you can't do it while you're on the phone with them, probably not going to get it. But that's just showing you the follow-up with customers and showing you those Google reviews. That's how you're going to get them. There's a touch campaign, 10-year follow-up plans are what I have in my CRM. They get something for the next 10 years. There might be a little heavier in the first couple of years because it's new. It's talking about the new home. But I've got 10 to 20-year plans and 20 to 30-year plans running now. Some people have been staying in their houses longer since the crash. So those 10-year plans end and it says 10-year plan ended. It's like, what? And I check tax records and then sure enough, they're still there. So I created a 10-year to 20-year plan. And now it just says, congratulations, you've been in your house 15 years, been in your house 20 years. So usually around the 5 and 7 year mark, we start talking about just some of our messages are, you feel a little crowded, or have you ever wanted to get a little more organized, or is it time to clean out the garage? And so like that's already planting the seeds that they might want to move. So anyway, we made it. Conclusion, the seller service cycle, you got it all. So in the book is where you go back through the end of every chapter and you start making your future, what your sellers look like. What does your business look like? What's your one action thing that you're going to do out of every one of these chapters? They give you the homework in there. So I can't believe it, guys, but we actually pulled it off and we just went about 10 minutes over. So we pulled off 9 chapters, a ton of stuff in 3 hours. Boom. Was it good stuff? And you all hung too. Pretty much everybody hung through it all the way through. All right, so now what you want to do is you want to tell somebody, your team leader, your OP, Mary Beth is even better. Let her know. She's the one that works really hard to bring all this training and stays on us to bring this training and asks us to do it. Of course, I love to do it. But if you let her know that you guys really did like this class, and tell other agents, man, if you guys aren't coming to this stuff, it's really got a lot of stuff in it. The more that we can get to show up, the more they're going to keep me around and bring more classes to you guys. So anyway, I'm here for you outside of this. This is your power punch of the information. You can call me individually if you have more questions about something in detail, or as you're putting something in place. That's the other part I'm available for. I'm here for you guys. Mary Beth wants me to be available for you. So if you're putting some of this stuff in place and have questions, you get to call me directly and I will help you. So, all right. Great hanging out with you. I would love if you guys would post something on social media, on your company site, whatever, what your ahas were from the class, what you really liked about it. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. Don't make me put you on my 5-step Google review.
Thank you, thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
Let me know if you have any
Thanks,
questions.
Brad.
You betcha. Happy holidays.
Yes, Merry
You too.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yes, see you next year.